Hi, today's video I'm going to show you how to clean the room control switches on a NuTone IM or IMA303 master station. This would also apply to the IM and then IMA, B, C, or D 313. It also applies to the IM and IMA 323 because those are all essentially the variations of an IM or IMA 303. So they're all kind of the same. Your master station may look somewhat different, it may be somewhat bigger, but the task of cleaning the switches is identical. Let's do a brief overview of what we have here. Here we have a late 70s IMA 303. You have your radio tuning dial knob here. It moves the pointer left and right to change your radio stations. You have your input selector switch. You have AM, phono, tape, and FM, and you slide that to the appropriate position for the type of music that you want. You have your main on-off switch and master speaker volume control. You have your 4 intercom push buttons here. You have inside patio talk and listen, and door speaker talk and listen. And behind this panel right here where it says solid state music intercom, you have, fold it down, your 8 room control switches. Plus you have an adjustment that says volume all speakers and a tone adjustment. These are the switches that need to be cleaned. And in most houses, in most cases, they've never been cleaned. What these switches are for is it allows you to adjust each remote station room by room to how you want it to operate. They are a 3-position switch, so if you slide it to the upper position, it puts that station into listen in. Listen in would later on be called monitor, and then if you move it down one to the center position, it turns that speaker off altogether. No radio, no intercom. If you have a doorbell connection, no doorbell either. And then the bottom position is radio / intercom, which gives you full function radio and intercom in that room. These switches can be a source of problems because they get dirty and they get oxidized, and sometimes people's needs of how to use their system will change, and after their switch number 2 has been in the radio intercom position for 30 years, they'll move it to off because they have house guests for the weekend, and then when they move it back, that room doesn't work right anymore. So it can be a problem. Cleaning these is fairly easy to do, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. You're going to need 4 things to do this. You're going to need a standard flat or plain screwdriver. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. You're going to need a rag or a cloth of some kind. And you're going to need your can of Deoxit D5, which is a switch cleaner that we recommend for cleaning all types of switches in all types of videos for all NuTone Intercom systems. This is commonly available nowadays. You can buy it on Amazon, a can like this, which is 5 ounces. And it's one of those cans when you buy it, it's actually like full. It's not actually like there's this much in the bottom. It actually seems like it's pretty full. A can of this on Amazon will cost you between maybe $12 and $14, and there'll be a link to it on Amazon in this video's description down below, so it's easy for you to find. Those are the things you're going to need. The first step to gain access to the switches, and no, just to cover it now, I do not recommend that you open this up and you spray it like this inside through the faceplate panel, because what's going to happen is it's going to get all over the inside of the intercom. It's going to make a big mess on the inside of the intercom, and if you get over enthusiastic about spraying, which is what people tend to do, it's going to come down and run down your wall as it runs out of the faceplate, and then somebody's going to get in trouble for wrecking the wallpaper. So let's not do it that way. So the first step is we need to open up the master station. Models like the IM and IMA303, they're held against the wall with a little pin right here, and what we need to do is pull the pin out so we can fold the master down and get to the back of it. Many times your set will not have been opened up for 30 or 35 or maybe 40 years, and getting the little pin out can be a little tricky, and that's where our flat screwdriver comes into play. All you have to do is take the screwdriver and carefully place it under the head of the pin and carefully wiggle and pry it up, carefully being the most important part. Sometimes when you get it up part way, you can pull it out with your fingers. Sometimes they don't want to come out, and then you can finish prying it up with the screwdriver. Once you get the pin out, or almost all the way out, you need to support the front of the master because it's going to want to tend to fold down, and you don't want it to flop down unexpectedly and fall off the hinges and fall on the floor, because then you'll be unhappy. So we'll take the pin out, fold the set down just a little bit, and you don't want to lose the pin because you're going to need it when you put the set back up. These are the kind of things that they go mysteriously missing in 5 minutes that you have it opened up. So a good thing to do is to put it back in the hole in the bracket so you won't lose it. As you fold the set down, it will pivot down on its hinges, and if you do it carefully, it will stay on the hinges and not fall off, which is what you want. Some sets oftentimes will have a support strap. It'll be attached to a screw down here by the speaker, and it'll travel up into the wall housing and have a metal hook on it, and it'll be hooked, and that gives it a little more support. This particular one, the support strap is missing. It's not really that big of a deal, but what you don't want to do is lean on this excessively because you will pop it off the hinges and then it's kind of loose. Over here in this area, here is the back of the terminal board or switchboard assembly, and this is where the switches behind the doors on the faceplate are located, and the next step is to remove this board from the back of the faceplate. Removing the terminal board is fairly straightforward. It's held to the back of the faceplate by 4 screws. Let's see if we can get this gray cable out of the way a little bit so you can see them all. So there's 1 screw here. The second one is in this corner, the third one's in this corner, and the fourth one is down here under the wires down here. It's easy to identify the 4 screws because they are Phillips head screws, while all of the other screws are slotted screws, and they're in each of the 4 corners. So that's where you use your Phillips screwdriver, and you simply unscrew the screws and put them aside because you will need them again. And once you've taken the 4 screws out, you can simply lift the terminal board and switch assembly and turn it over out of the faceplate. Once the terminal board is loose, what we want to do is sort of lift it out of the way, and we want to put our rag over the left-hand end of the faceplate to catch any overspray or anything that might happen as you clean. If you do this carefully, there shouldn't be a lot of overspray, but you know how things go sometimes. And here in this close-up view of the 8 room control switches, you can easily see all this fuzz buildup that's gotten into the switches. This is from dirt and things that filter down through the wall cavity over the years and makes its way into the switches. What happens is this type of material tends to hold moisture. The moisture will cause the contacts in the switch to oxidize. The moisture is just from the humidity in the air for the most part. That's what causes the contacts to oxidize, and that's why they don't make a good connection. So the first thing we want to do is we want to remove as much of the fuzz buildup as we can. And what I like to use is, this is just a little bristle brush that I keep on the workbench, and you can just sort of brush away a lot of it. These are particularly dirty and not uncommon. So the other thing that we'll do is we're going to use a little bit of our compressed air, and we're going to blow them out just a little bit. And it's always a good idea to move them from one position to the other to make sure you get as much cleared out as possible. You can see this doesn't really take very long to do, and the end result is well worth the effort. Once we've cleaned out the fuzz and blown it out with a little bit of air, you don't have to blow it out with air if you don't have it. It's just something that we do here. What we want to do is we want to spray our Deoxit D5 into the switches. And the way I like to do that is, if you look at the ends of the switches, here, you actually have slots in them that make their way down to the interior part of the switch where the contacts are, and that's really a good place to spray the cleaner. Now, when you spray the cleaner, you don't need a ton. You don't need a gallon of it in each switch. All you need is that much in each switch. This is one of those kind of things, this is what I call a less is more project. You don't have to use half of the can to clean 8 switches. You just spray a little bit in each one, and then what you do is you move them back and forth several times. And when you move them back and forth several times, you'll notice this one that I haven't moved yet, it's in the lower position, and these 3 which I have moved are now in the upper position. So when you move them back and forth, you end up opposite of where it started. And you go through and you do all of these. And then what I like to do is spray a little more from the opposite end of each switch, because how long have we spent doing this so far? This is like less than 10 minutes. So this is not a long, complicated process. This is an easy thing to do. And you can see here how there's runoff. And that's why you put the rag, because you don't want the deoxit running all over the back of your intercom system, because that would be bad. And once you spray them the second time, move them again. Once you've sprayed them, you can immediately feel how much easier they are to slide. And for the most part, that's all you have to do. Now, if you want to wait, if you have more time and you're patient, if you sort of let these marinate in the deoxit for a little while, then you can come back in an hour or 2 and you can spray them one more time each and work them back and forth again, and they should be fine. They don't usually require excessive cleaning, but if you want to do it that way, that's fine also. Once you're done and you're ready to put things back together, take your rag and sort of mop off your board a little bit if there's a lot on it. Whatever little bit of residue is on the board, it will evaporate on its own, so you don't have to worry about that too much. So now the switches are clean, and all we have to do is put it back together. Putting it back together is the reverse order of taking it apart. We'll lift up the terminal board, we'll move our rag out of the way, we'll flip the terminal board back around, and we'll put it back in place on the back of the faceplate. It only fits on one way, so you really can't do it wrong. And then we'll take our 4 screws and we'll put those back in place. Like that. So that's back in place the way it's supposed to be. And now all we have to do is fold the set back up and we're good to go. So to put it back in, we'll take our pin that we put in the bracket here at the top. So we can close this, you just fold the set back up like this, and then you jockey the set around so the hole in the faceplate lines up with the hole in the bracket, and you're done. Your room control switches on your IMA303, 323, 313, all of those different models are now clean. If there's a little bit of residue that ran out of the switches on the face, on the outside of the faceplate, all you have to do is take your rag and sort of wipe it off a little bit. And like I said, any little bit that's left, like on the ends of the switches, it'll evaporate on its own, so you don't have to worry about it. So that's all there is to cleaning the switches on your room control switches for your NuTone IMA303. I hope you found this video to be interesting and perhaps helpful. If you have intermittent switch problems or intermittent remote station problems, think about cleaning the room control switches on your master station. We also have videos in our remote station control cleaning playlist that shows how to clean the speakers that go with an IM or IMA303, and sometimes those can be a source of a problem also. If you found this interesting and helpful, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube, because that always helps. If you find our videos interesting, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell or the wheel on the YouTube banner, put in your email address, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notice letting you know. That's all for today. See you on the next video.